A few years ago, I got a phone call. The guy says, "Hey, Anthony, we haven't met before, but I'm the CTO of a data company and our sales team does not understand what they're selling. They've gotten us a couple of big opportunities, which is great, but we don't have a story and we don't know what to pitch." I was like, all right, let's work on this a little. So I asked him, "What are you selling?" And it took him about 60 seconds to explain his product. Then I asked him who the ideal buyer was, and he said, "We're not totally sure. These types of people are typically buying our software." I asked him why he loses deals, and he said, "Well, how much time do you have?" So then I asked, "Well, do you have like an explainer deck?" And he said, "Yeah, but the last time we presented that, the people who saw it said they understood the product even less than before." A lot of work. So I spent the next couple of weeks interviewing product managers, sales teams, developers, and the executive team. And then I delivered this very long document that brought together everything that I'd learned from those interviews. It was probably 50 or 60 pages long, answering every possible question about their product, including who's buying it and why, what the typical budgets look like, what the sales objections are, and I provided a small pile of one-pager explainers for the most important topics. Well, a couple weeks later, I got another call from the same CTO, and this time he said, "Hey Anthony, that sales playbook you put together just helped us win a big 7-figure deal. I just want to give you an update and thank you for that." And that's when I realized I should probably start getting paid for performance instead of on deliverables. But the moral of this story isn't so much that content can help you win deals. It's that you will absolutely lose deals without it. And good luck if your sales team doesn't fully understand what they're selling, which is not an uncommon problem. And in fact, I've even led workshops where entire leadership teams didn't even agree on what they were selling or to whom. Now, if your sales team doesn't have the right content to align around for the right stories and messages and processes, they're just walking into conversations with buyers who already Googled their way through your competition. They've read the docs, they've talked to their friends, and they've probably formed some opinions before your AE ever jumped on a call with them. So the first content asset that you need isn't really flashy. It doesn't generate leads. It doesn't rank on Google. It's an internal document that is so foundational that if you skip it, none of the other content in this series will really matter. It's called the Sales Playbook. Now, before we jump into what that really is, I just want to share that this is the first video in an 8-part series about B2B sales content. I might add more videos along the way, but for right now, we've got 8 videos planned, each of which will cover a variety of B2B content types and how to use them. All right, with that said, let's get back into sales playbooks. A sales playbook is not a script. It's not just some PDF with boilerplate personas and canned discovery questions, which I see pretty regularly. It's also not a Notion doc that nobody reads. And it's definitely not a how-to doc. At its core, a real sales playbook does 3 things. First, it aligns sales and marketing on messaging, positioning, and product value. Second, it equips reps with talking points, proof points, and objection handling. And third, it standardizes the buyer journey, so everyone knows how to guide a deal from first touch, closed, and won. You can think of it as the internal version of all the content we're going to talk about in this series, because it holds your product's narrative together and it keeps everyone on the same page. Now, it might seem unusual that we're prioritizing a sales playbook on the first B2B content asset in this whole series, but I've seen so many deals lost because there was no sales playbook. The salesperson, they get in over their head, they're unable to answer basic technical questions, and their competitors just don't say things like, "Let's jump on another call next week with our solutions architect." A good sales playbook gives you the ability to handle objections, answer technical questions, understand a product, and guide the overall flow of conversations and buyer journeys. So now that we know why it's so important, let's talk about what goes into a playbook. Now, the good news is format doesn't matter at all. You can do it in PowerPoint, Notion, Google Docs, whatever you want. Do what works best for you, your company, your sales team, and anyone who influences the conversion of prospects. What does matter is what's inside the playbook. Now, at minimum, it should include core messaging, like what problems you solve, for whom, and why right now. Positioning statements that show how you're different from alternatives. Buyer personas that aren't just fluffy, ChatGPT bios, but rather how each persona sees value and risk. common objections and responses, like real ones, not just theoretical ones that you might think of in a meeting. You want key use cases and success stories framed for relevance to different buyers. You want proof points like metrics, quotes, outcomes, things that build confidence for the buyer. And you want to have a breakdown of deal stages and next step plays. This way you can know what content or action is appropriate for each stage of the sales conversation. Now you can also have these other helpful things like demo scripts and guidelines, discovery question libraries, competitive battle cards, and pricing rationale. For example, this didn't end up in a sales playbook, but I recently talked to an engineer who was building this whole demo script where he automated this year-long third-party risk monitoring process into like a 5-minute task. And I told him, as impressive as the demo was, no prospect is ever going to look at their work, like a 1-year process, as a 5-minute automation task. So if you don't have a realistic demo that reflects how people work, they won't believe that you even know what you're doing, even if you can demonstrate that you've solved all of their problems. These kinds of perspectives need to be part of a sales playbook. That way, anyone who does a demo is aware that the person they're selling to has to do this stuff over the course of a year. So here's a pro tip. If you find yourself or your reps improvising through any sales conversations, then your sales book is incomplete. That's just all there is to it. Everything should be in there. Every objection, every question. And if it isn't, right after that call, go talk to whoever owns the sales playbook and get it updated. Now let's talk about how sales playbooks should be used. The best sales playbooks are living documents. They evolve with your product. They reflect what your top reps are actually saying and hearing in real sales conversations. And they should be used every day in real life, not just on day one of onboarding. Here's what it looks like when you have a good sales playbook. A rep will prep for a call by reviewing persona-specific objections and talking points. A marketer might update the website with new messaging after a pricing change. A sales enablement manager might run a monthly session using examples from the playbook. Or a new rep might bookmark the playbook because it actually helps them close deals on a regular basis. Here's another pro tip. If your sales playbook is not being used regularly, then that's a good sign that it's too long, too generic, or too outdated. Or maybe it's just useless. You need to think of it as an internal product that people want to use, that has a user experience, that is designed, that's easy to navigate. You have to maintain it. You have to work on it regularly because it keeps your sales operations running. And that means you have to stay on top of it. You have to manage your sales playbook. It is a living piece of content. It is the connective tissue between your product, your positioning, and your people. If your reps aren't aligned, a case study is not going to save a deal. If you don't understand how to tell your story, what good is a one-pager going to do? If you can't explain your product in a way that resonates with the buyer, why would you give them a white paper? It just doesn't make sense. A good playbook makes sure that the rest of your content gets used in the right way, at the right time, and for the right reason. It's also a sort of cheat code for onboarding new reps or enabling partner sales and avoiding the classic every deal is custom trap that kills your ability to scale. You don't need your sales playbook to be perfect. You don't need it to do anything special, Just make a very clear, accurate, and aligned document about how you actually sell. And that means it has to reflect how people actually buy products like yours. If you need to learn more about that, we have a whole series of videos about technical buyers over at bettersalescontent.com. So, arm your sales team with an internal playbook. Get them prepared so they understand the product and know how to handle objections. Because a great sales playbook is preparation for conversations that need to be sparked by your external content, the stuff that's not your sales playbook. To win over a technical buyer, you need to prove claims with authority and detail. And one of the best ways you can do that is with a white paper. So in our next video, we're going to break down how white papers work, how to write them, and how and why they build undeniable credibility, so that when your prospect finally meets one of your reps, they're already halfway convinced. All right, we'll see you there.